Okay, we're live. Hello. Spoof, hello. Just going to wait a few minutes to get people in. Hope everyone's doing well. I thought it would be great if we could do a stream empowering, women especially empowering each other. Men can come. I'm going to play, it's a short video from Sam Botnin, who is an Israeli writer. He's written many books. He specializes, and he's a self-proclaimed narcissist. And I hope you guys can hear me. Hey, Ginger Locks. He's 59 years old. He's married. He has his PhD. He's a writer. Very brilliant, intelligent man. And I'm going to play a short video of his on the toxicity of social media, and also with let me get into it. Gannon, who Richard Grannon. Let me get a little bio for you on him. Richard Grannon. Okay. He's a life coach. And he's very well known, at least on YouTube. I've been following him for a while, not consistently, but he has, I believe, a bachelor's in psychology, and he's a master practitioner of master's practitioner certification in neuro-linguistic programming. So he's an expert in applying the Spartan values of strength, self-discipline, bravery to psychological training, basically helping people take control, back control of their life. And he has a YouTube page. Again, his name is Richard Grannon, Grannon. And Sam Botnin also has a YouTube page. Candace, hey, that's okay. It's good to see you. How are you? Aussie flag, hello. Yeah, sorry for the delay. Always something comes up. And I've got my bowl of candy corn. I'm just like chomping on candy corn. Okay. So I'll just wait a couple more minutes. I'm gonna play. I'm not gonna show them. I'm just gonna do audio. And I'm not gonna, and they aren't that long. I'm gonna show you a couple of videos. And I think it's important to listen to exactly how social media platforms are set up, how what they're intended to do to people like you and I, to give us that little jolt of dopamine, right? It's like they engineered social media platforms to be addicting, and you'll listen to it. It will get more into how it actually changes our psychological behaviors, and it's pretty powerful. I did put one of the videos, it's longer, in my community page today. So if you can try to understand, why is social media like this? Hi, Leo's wife. Who's going in and out? My audio? You guys can hear me, right? Y'all going in and out? Who's going in and out? Oh, shoot. It's me? No. Damn. Hold on. Let me go down and come back up. Okay, let's see if that helped. Is the screen flashing? Let me look on YouTube. Hold on. I might have to relocate in my house. Let me see. I don't see it flashing. It won't work on my phone. All right, can you guys hear me? I'm going in and out. Oh my God. Gingerlock says the sound is good. No, it's YouTube. Makeup Mobster was the same. I know I went into YouTube Studio to try to link a video to someone, and I can't even get into Studio. It won't work on your phone. All right, can you guys hear me? Makeup Mobster's having the same problem. Well, this sucks. Might not be able to do this then. What happened to Leanna? Did she have to? Yeah, did she have to stop her live? Maybe it's God's way of saying knock it off to everybody today. Enough is enough. You can hear me now? Okay. If it happens again, please let me know. Not that I can do anything, but okay. All right. So I think it's important before we try to figure out, not that we can, why people behave the way they do on the internet is a little why it was created. Okay. Your tablet doesn't have chat. Hi, Lee. All right. So I hope I just hope that if the problem continues, just write in the chat. Anybody. Let me make sure I've got mods. Hold on. Okay, I've got mods. Okay, so the first video I'm going to play, let me get to my list. Where is it? Library. Watch later. Is Richard Grannon. And Sam Vaknin, VAKNIN, on social media toxicity. This is a short version. It's 10 minutes. But again, I think it's really important that we listen to what social media, how it is affecting people, and how we are all vulnerable. Hi, Dana. LJ, hi. Okay. All right, let's go. Again, I'm just going to do the audio. I don't know if I'll be flagged or what for this, but oh well. We'll see. We will see. And I'm going to eat my candy corn. I'll be in the chat.
Sense. We have lost.
Okay. Let me know if you can hear it well.
We have lost our sense of place in history.
We have come to a situation where we are no longer sure that we exist. We have a virtual existence. And the more detailed it is, the more we convince ourselves that we're alive. We know that there's an enormous body of research that proves that human contact is crucial. This is what social media has taken away from us.
That's where we are now. The story, the narrative, the ongoing process of thought, the use of language, the capacity to think critically is completely disintegrating. And in horror, we observe this structure of reality that we've created around us and our identity, our place in it, disintegrating. How do we respond to that? Well, we're seeing how we respond to that. Panic, frustration, aggression, agitation, people turning on each other. It sounds hyperbolic. It sounds...
All right. Can you guys hear that? Taffy sticks to my teeth. This is about social media, okay? Media toxicity, social media toxicity. Okay, good. In and out a bit. All right, well, let's try to hang in there.
Dramatic, but that is literally what we're seeing. We're seeing people turn on each other. And the predominant format which permits people to do that today is online. How long will it be before that spills out from the online world to the real world? I predict not that long.
It's about identity formation. People think that in the early years of life, early childhood, you form an identity. And later on, this identity differentiates, becomes kind of fine-tuned. So there are added layers like sexual identity, professional identity, and so on. But at some point, this process stops, and then they have an identity for life. That's of course untrue. Identity it's a full-time job. You keep honing your identity, redefining it, revisiting it, changing it, metamorphosizing it. I mean, identity is a process, not an event, not a fixture, not a construct. It's a process. If you spend most of your time or a big chunk of your time, or if you place importance on interacting virtually, online, with avatars, and so on and so forth, you would have a serious problem with ongoing identity maintenance. Your identity would be damaged. Why is that? Because the major regulatory mechanism, the major type of interaction that creates identity, maintains identity, sustains identity, and perpetuates identity is interaction with other people.
Ongoing contact with other human beings has an intrinsically healing element to it that provides a baseline. So you may become anxious, you may become depressed, but you see your friends and then you're brought back to baseline, and that's now gone. Leaving the person using social media starving all the time.
Yes, so what I believe. There's a gigantic body of studies that demonstrates conclusively that even a short, theoretically meaningless interaction with another human being has a healing effect, a therapeutic effect, reduces anxiety, reduces depression, reduces level of certain hormones. For example, it has massive impact on cortisol. We are, in this sense, machine-like.
Good evening.
Commercial.
Tonight's ASMR sleep story takes it.
Why are we looking for a fame that is pornographic? Not in the sense of sexual pornography, but in the sense of just being there gratuitously for its own sake. How can we not say that that's pure narcissism? What's the point? There is no point. The point is there's no point. What are you famous for? For being famous. Wait a second. You're sending me into regression here. You're famous for being famous for being famous. Is that not what we have? You know, our major celebrities who are spoken about the most online and in mainstream media, most of them are famous for being famous. They're not. It's no longer about their music. It's not about their art. It's not about the films they make, the stories they tell. They have that opportunity and they choose to just piss it away frivolously on spectacle.
All media in the world were all, Gutenberg Bible, all media were invented to communicate, to say something to someone. The only pieces of media which were invented by people who hate to communicate, absolutely abhor real communication and real life interactions, were social media. These are coders, they're loners, they are schizoid, they're hermits, they are teenagers, dysfunctional teenagers with no peer groups, no friends, there's no speculation. This is a profile. There's a book about all the. This is a problem. So these people hate real life interactions. They hate to meet people. They hate to go to. They never have a pint in a pub. I mean, and they invented this. It's the first medium that is anti-medium against communication. We can't ignore this. We can't ignore this because whatever you say about what has changed with these people is their age and their wealth, but not their psychology. Let me use social media to become recognized, to become acknowledged, to become a winner, to be seen, to obtain narcissistic supply. And that's how it started. But what they did not realize is because of the nature of social media, the exclusion of face-to-face interactions and other things we have discussed, social media exacerbate identity problems. And so what happened is people whose identities were anyhow challenged and people who anyhow converged on a dysfunctional strategy of excluding others to restore their own sense of self, their sense of being. These people ended up using a tool which made their identity crisis much deeper and more profound. That's what I'm saying. That's why not only don't we see a resolution of identity problems and identity politics, but we see a massive explosion of these issues.
But in this new world, this brave new world that we're in, no, my opinion, I also have an opinion. My dumb, stupid fucking opinion counts just as much as yours, even though you have a PhD. That is insane and does not serve anybody. And it's I personally believe that's a fawning response to the crowd because the likes, it's all about likes and followers. Once we say the game is all about likes and followers, of course you fawn to the demos, to the mob. We need to have checks and balances, and just because the majority wants a thing does not mean that's best for the majority.
Now is the age of social Darwinism. Now we are being winnowed out. Now there's a process of digital eugenics. Digital eugenics, where you can either be a loser or a winner. Strategies that used to belong exclusively to majority groups are now universal.
Yeah.
All strategies that help you distinguish yourself, stand out, be noticed, be acknowledged, be recognized, feel alive, feel in existence, feel that there is a process of being. All these strategies are no longer identifiable with specific groups, specific backgrounds, specific strata, specific socioeconomic, but they have become universalized. So everyone is using actually the same arsenal against everyone.
Right.
It's a war of all against all. In some respects, you could say that it's a kind of an all-pervasive or ubiquitous civil war.
This is where obviously at first the real world bled into the online world, and we go, oh, that's strange, isn't it? You know, it's online, it's in that other world. We're way past that now. The online world has its own gravity. It's this own fake planet that's been created, and now the horror of the unconscious, the monsters are coming out of Pandora's box back into this world. So the online world is now affecting the real world, and we have these strange, invasive moments where the darkness of the unconscious of the online world spews back out and vomits out demonic behavior and words and attitudes back out onto us. And this is something that, you know, I think could have been prevented if somebody had just said, hey guys, we need to be responsible adults about this. Let's put some checks and balances in here. Let's stop this. Let's not make it so that children as young as 10 can be influenced by the kind of indoctrination that would make 8, 9, 10-year-old girls develop anorexia and bulimia at levels that have never been seen before in recorded medical history. How do you make a 10-year-old anorexic? Why are these kids like this? Why are they acting as though they're in an abusive relationship? Because they are. This is an abusive relationship, which is why I'm a hardliner. I'm not of the mindset of, oh, well, you know, do this, I really just think it's too late for that now. We need a hard reset. Maybe after a hard reset, we could go back and go, okay, guys, We already experienced how it went wrong before. We want you to be able to build communities. That's a beautiful thing. I'm not saying it's all destructive. I'm saying that it's 85 to 90% destructive. And the impact it's having on kids, the impact it's having on us as adults, and society at large is massively corrupting and destructive. And it needs to be stopped now. Another year or two of indoctrination, brainwashing, conditioning, we can't afford it. We've got to do something now.
Okay. All right. So that was one. I've got one more. What did you think of that? That the toxicity of social media, how it's engineered to purposely be addictive and to you guys can hear me, right? He's very smart. Both are Richard Grant and Sam Botkin. They're both very, very smart, brilliant people. Hold on. Find one more. Oh, that's me. That's live. I'm looking and I go, oh, look at, let's empower each other. All right, and this one is 10 minutes. This one is Jaron Lanier, who's a computer engineer, scientist. And he did a video, it's online, called Why I Quit Social Media. So we can listen to that.
Right now, Lanier contends that sites like Facebook and Twitter are dopamine farms that are reprogramming how you think and feel. He says they're also causing political instability and are changing the global economy for the worse. Well, joining me now from Seattle, Washington is computer scientist, inventor of VR. He's even a classical composer. Jaron Lanier, good to have you.
Right, Debbie, and we'll talk about that.
Jaron, tell me why we should unplug. Tell me why we should delete our social media accounts.
Well, there are 10 reasons, okay? One reason is that scientific studies have shown that even though it's hard to delete your accounts, when you do, you get happier, you get more productive, you have more time. But that might be the least of the reasons. When a lot of people do, their society becomes better, it becomes more peaceful. People believe in facts more instead of silly conspiracy theories. What's amazing is that just this one technology seems to have made every layer of life worse. But since we're all addicted to it, it's hard to see that.
Right. And so, full disclosure, one of the great perks of my job is that I can read a book and then come and talk to my team and say, hey, I read this book. It's fantastic. We should get the author on. That's exactly what happened with your book. I read it about a month ago. While I was reading it, it was actually, I posted my last tweet about a month ago. And I said, guys, this could be my last tweet because the book was so compelling. Your arguments were so strong, right? So I haven't tweeted in a month. I haven't gone onto Facebook. I haven't gone into my Instagram. I've left them idle. I haven't deleted them yet, but I found it really compelling. Now, I might be a convert. I don't know. I'm sort of in this in-between phase. I will agree that I've read more in the past month. I've read loads of books, and I've found, for me personally, I found my concentration back. I've been able to concentrate a bit better, right? Be that as it may, there's something a bit more nefarious that you talk about in the book. You talk about the fact that social media is manufacturing in a terrible way. It's making us behave differently, and it's designing bad behavior or unnatural behavior. Now, help me understand that and explain that properly.
Sure. Well, in the business models for companies like Facebook and Twitter, but also I have to say for Google, the only product that they make money from essentially is the ability to persuade and change the behaviors of their users. So you're not the customer of these things. The customer is the advertiser off to the side, and the advertiser believes that they're able to gain some kind of modification in what you do, what you think, and it's sneaky. You don't understand all that's being done to you. Very strange behavior modification algorithms are being applied, and all this data that's being taken is what feeds those algorithms. Now, the problem with this is that if you have a society where anytime two people do something together, the only way that's financed is because of a third person who wants to manipulate them, you end up with an entire society optimized for manipulation, for sneakiness, for trickiness. And so what you do is you open it up to all kinds of bad actors to come in and create divisions, ruin elections, make politics insane. And I have to say, we've seen so many examples of that it's crazy to deny it anymore. If you ask, how did an organization like ISIS become so powerful so quickly? Well, it's because the social media technology is designed to amplify exactly the worst people. If you ask, why is violence returning to areas that had been gradually becoming more peaceful in rural India and Southeast Asia and parts of Africa? Once again, we see the same phenomenon. Social media arrives and then the violence follows. And there are too many examples to give. I think so the thing is, though, that people are genuinely addicted. The addiction is technically very similar to gambling addiction. Right. When somebody becomes addicted to gambling, they don't want to believe it. They think they're in control, but they're not. And so since everybody's addicted to this stuff, when you talk to them about it, it's very hard for them to understand because they're addicted. It's essentially a form of being hypnotized, but by a hypnotist who's working for somebody else. Right. It's a very strange situation.
Okay, so we're addicted. That's fine. We get these dopamine hits from people liking our pouty selfies or our posts of our kids or whatever. Even if it's well intentioned, we're addicted to our own echo chamber and people validating our thoughts and all of that. But on the other side of this, and this is a crucial point, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Google and so on, are they deliberately, nefariously trying to modify our behavior and make us into bad, addicted people? Or is it just a byproduct of good intentions gone bad?
This is a fascinating question. Okay, so the first president of Facebook, somebody named Sean Parker, now says that they understood they were intentionally doing something bad. But the thing is, I knew him at the time when Facebook was starting and he was the president of it. And I really believe they didn't understand it and it was good intentions gone bad. And so this leaves me with a mystery. Is he remembering himself as being more of an evil James Bond villain kind of a person because it's glamorous? It's very hard to figure that out. I'm very confident that Jack Dorsey and the other people at Twitter did not realize they were doing something bad and they were caught by surprise and now are having trouble figuring out what to do. And I think they're sincere. I also feel that's true about the Google people who I knew, and I actually sold a company to them when they were just starting. I believe that they did not understand the depth of the mistake they were making. I'm not sure if anybody fully did. But in the case of Facebook, maybe they did. At least some of them say they did.
A lot of people just say, listen, I use Twitter for work and for keeping up with the news. I use Facebook and Instagram for friends and family and being sociable. What's the big deal? Aren't you a bit of an extremist, Jaron? Or even to me, like, what's wrong with you? Why are you taking yourself so seriously by unplugging, either by leaving it idle or by leaving altogether? So what? Just reduce the amount of time you spend on these things. What's wrong with you? Don't you have willpower? Don't they have a point?
Well, the thing is that people aren't aware of most of what happens. Your immediate experience of using these tools might be quite positive. And indeed, from my perspective, this ability to connect with friends and all that sort of thing is just intrinsic to the internet. That's all good and that's all authentic. The main thing that goes on that I'm concerned about is something that you are by design not aware of, which is the modification of your own behavior, because it happens very sneakily and very subtly using the techniques of what's called behaviorism, a branch of science that studies how to change the behavior of organisms like people. And so, what this is analogous to, for me, is in the past, society has faced problems where there was mass addiction. And even though everybody was addicted, and even though it was hard, we somehow were able to face up to it. And a very obvious example to me is cigarette smoking, which is greatly reduced, even though everybody used to smoke all the time everywhere. Another example is alcohol. We've had a campaign in most of the world to prevent people at least from driving drunk because it used to kill so many people. And actually that's worked, that turned out to be intelligent and was accepted. So I think in the same way, when we start to have a wider realization of how troublesome these things are, not only will some people leave, but when those people leave, they'll create the space in the society for conversation. And I'm fully confident that these services will improve eventually, and they'll improve enough that I won't feel you need to delete them anymore. But right now, it really is important for the health of society for people to become aware of the degradation that's going on.
For those who would say, well, if there are 1 billion people using a social media network and say 100 million of us stop posting that much and another 100 million delete, you still have 800 million people who are completely addicted and feeding the beast. And what impact is staying off social media going to actually have? Are they really going to listen in Google and Twitter and Facebook?
Even if only a minority of people become skeptics of the social media technologies and delete their accounts, that minority is enough to have the conversation. Look, here's the analogy I would make. If absolutely every single person in a society is a drunk, it's going to be impossible to have a conversation about the problems of alcoholism, right? There needs to be there has to be somebody who's sober in order to even start that conversation. This seems to me to be simple logic. So in this case, there has to be just some subset, some minority of people who are not addicted to these technologies, and then we can have a conversation, and out of that conversation will come better technologies and a more moderate and survivable form of them.
So I'm social media teetotal for the moment, or tweet total for the moment. I just made that up. It's a horrible dad joke, and I apologize. But so, would you allow us from the show's Twitter and Facebook account to share this interview?
Okay, hold on. This one is just 5 minutes. It's a part 2 from Richard Grannon.
Anxiety and depression are through the roof. Why? This is all down to the relative social positioning that social media encourages. Not all social media does this as aggressively as others. The main culprits for relative social positioning, the main culprit for most mental health issues based on the research that I read recently, is Instagram. Instagram is like peak culturally induced narcissism because it only offers the trading of images. It's only about images. It's only about the spectacle. To understand more about how a commitment to spectacle damages the individual psychology and society at large, there was a book written that predicted this in 1969. It's called The Society of Spectacle by Guy Debord. Once we commit to the spectacle in favor of the lived reality, we can modify ourselves. We make ourselves products, and we make the people around us products as well. This obviously is going to induce anxiety and depression because the product that you are, whether that is your body, your appearance, or your lifestyle that you're trying to offer up, is never going to be good enough. Plus, you're competing not with the rest of the villagers in your village, but with the billions of people who live in the world on Earth who have a Wi-Fi connection. You can never win. You're now committed to a game that you can never win and you can never even really compete in properly. You are always going to be a loser. Now, I can see the wry smiles on people's faces. If you're my age or above, that's quite funny because so what? I'm not a social influencer on Instagram. But if you're 12, 13 or 14 years old and that's your sense of what you should be because you've imbibed the idea that this is normal, it generates depression. You feel totally worthless. Where are my 14 million followers? Why am I not driving a Ferrari? Why would you think that's normal? Because of the sheer number of hours that are being consumed every week of social media, it creates an effect called hyper-normalization. I think the average adolescent is online for around 8 to 9 hours a day. Most of that time is spent consuming social media. If we think in terms of propagandization or brainwashing, that is a long time to be indoctrinated into thinking the world will work a certain way. They lose sight of normal. This can happen to all of us. Everybody in this room, if you're using social media a lot, your sense of normal is being skewed, even if you don't realize it. What they've done for young people, and this is admitted, it's deliberate, is they force them into a game where they're competing with each other for likes and for follows. They realize that wouldn't work for my generation and above, so they make us compete with each other politically. This is admitted, it's in the public arena, and it's there to keep you online and arguing over politics, which I know from the guilty looks on your faces, some of you have done that in the last 7 days, if not in the last 7 hours. You've gotten into an argument with somebody online pointlessly over some politics or something that has a political element to it. Why? It's conditioned you to be addicted to confrontation. It's deliberate. They know that the fostering of negative emotion is more powerful and more addictive and binding and conditioning than positive emotion. Think back, if you're old enough and can remember when we're using it, Facebook in its early formats was like MySpace. All you could do was contact your auntie. All you could do was show a picture of something that you did last night. And the atmosphere was very different. From 2012, 2013 forward, the atmosphere got more and more aggressive and more hostile, and that's because they trained the algorithms to condition the people into hostility. Now we are fractured. Now we are in our individualized tribes, defending them against some imagined oppositional enemy, and there's nobody there. It's all being generated online. Well, originally there was nobody there, except now it's spilling out into the real world. So the internet was originally about the real world, but I think we've gone past the point now where actually the real world has become about the internet. Things that happen online are as significant as the real world. Obviously, the inability to concentrate is going to be huge, because if we're pulling our phones out all the time, constantly looking for a rapid dopamine hit, actually sitting there and reading Nietzsche on paper for a few hours is going to be a bit difficult by comparison. So we don't think. Our actual capacity to think things through critically is being damaged. I don't think that benefits people very well, anybody, but it's particularly damaging to young people. They can no longer concentrate on anything. In the final weeks of shooting the documentary, which just got finished in December, I invited a group of students from the University of Liverpool to take 1 month off social media. And I said, I will join you. I will also take a month off social media, and I'll see what happens.
Okay. All right. So that's basically just 3 videos that kind of goes over why, how social media, what's its intention was to hit the algorithms, the negativity. There is no critical thinking. Okay. And we heard about you will never win. You will never win because there's no critical thinking. There is no human compassion. It is useless. You are either a winner or a loser. There is nothing in between. And it's a matter of the likes, how many people you can get in, how many people that can agree with you. No critical thinking. What did we talk about? People who use just their words. So-and-so did this. And people just go with it. Go with it. There is no more critical thinking. That is the way social media is now, altering the psychology of people, and the danger of it, especially with younger people, is it will start to spill out and has been spilling out by influence into our real world, example, politics. And it has increased depression, suicide rates. So when we say, it's affected our real life psychologically, it has. It has. I'm not talking about affecting our real life like, social media came and took away my home. It affects us psychological, which affects our inability to be as productive. So how we choose to behave on social media is very important, because it has been spilling out into the real world. It is affecting people. And there is no critical thinking in social media. So to try to go on a live stream and prove yourself or explain yourself, you can do it until kingdom come. You will never win. You will never win. The audience is already conditioned. The community is already conditioned. There is divide. It's black or white. There is no critical thinking. So I hope those kind of give you a better understanding, of how it affects us psychologically and how it conditions us. And many of us don't even know it's happening. And some don't recognize their behaviors. We sit there and we say, my God, how can you do this for someone who isn't addicted, who comes in and sees these arguments or these smear campaigns? And we say, well, and we say, how could this happen? It does happen. It does happen. And it's a sneaky, and Jared explains it as being sneaky. And it hits the algorithms and the commercials that we see when we start a video support this. They know what they're doing because it gets attention at the cost of a human being's brain. And it's so dangerous for children who are have developing brains, that they're conditioned now to live their life based on likes, instant gratification. Either you're a winner or you're a loser. There's no more in between, and that is dangerous. And it's going on. We see that going on with adults. Your brains may be fully developed, but your behaviors are always changing. We are always redefining ourselves, as Vatkin described. Okay, it doesn't stop when our brain stops developing. We are constantly redefining ourselves. So we come into social media and the wires get tripped a little bit. And we feel that instant gratification. People like me, no matter what I put out there, whether I'm bashing somebody, I'm being supported. And it's that instant gratification, that self-gratification. So it's kind of complicated, but if you watch these videos enough and really understand the dynamics of social media, you can understand better how it originated and what its intent was, and that it's working and it's destructive. I don't have a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all is YouTube. I don't even have a cell phone. Well, Google is YouTube, so Google is in the same category. Think outside the box. Think simple. Debbie gets it. Debbie gets it. So, trying to prove yourself to someone, when you have a whole audience saying no, without even proof. You don't even have to have proof. All you have to do is say, you're this, you're wrong, or you're right. And you get your little community or large community wanting that same instant gratification, whether it's negative or positive, agreeing. And the person being the creator or the narrator or whatnot is at the same time receiving their own self-gratification, even though it's wrong. But they're not critical. There's no critical thinking. All they're feeling is that dopamine hit, right? That dopamine hit. And that's all they want to feel. They can no longer do critical thinking. They cannot, there's no human contact on these social media sites. So there's no in between, as in our life. If we're having trouble, we reach out to our loved ones, our friends in real life, where there is compassion, where there is critical thinking, where we can talk about it. But something about social media, everything, being public, for that self-gratification, regardless of what it does to the other person. You're either a winner or a loser. You understand? I can argue the Instagram position, though. I don't go on Instagram. I don't go on Facebook. I've seen enough of what goes on YouTube, so I can certainly see it happening on all social media platforms. They all have the same blueprint, so to say. And we're seeing that, especially with politics, it is spilling out into our real world. And it is changing behaviors, but not in a good way. It's influential without critical thinking. And we're seeing that. We're already seeing that in our real world. And how can we stop this? I mean, do we all have to unplug? No. I mean, if you do, even for a short time, you do get that sense of being back again. You do get that sense of critical thinking back again, of that compassion. You do feel safe. You are not identified as good or bad. You have to actually talk to people There needs to be checks and balances, as there is in real life, and it doesn't exist. And people get sucked into it. It becomes their identity, and then they can no longer discern what their real identity is anymore, because they have so much gratification, acceptance, or that sense of being in YouTube or Facebook or whatever, based on who comes to them and hits those likes buttons, or how many people are in the stream. Oh, I got more people. It's a dopamine. The dopamine effect. And it actually does spit out a little bit of dopamine in our brains, being, getting the reward system in social media. And then when we don't get rewarded, the dopamine doesn't spit out, and that's when depression sets in. So let me put a link. I don't know if anyone wants to come up. However, I've dealt with this. I've managed to, hold on, let me copy the link. I have managed to set my own checks and balances, so to say. It doesn't work out perfectly all the time, but I know when I trip up and I might go somewhere because I heard someone's hurt or whatever, I get frustrated, and then I have to remember, wait a minute, it's just black and white in here. There's no in between. It is useless. And then it's like, how can people be like this? It's very harmful. It's very toxic. There's a link if anyone would like to come up. When this live is over, I can post those videos in my description. The longer versions from Jared, from Gannon, from Sam Barkin. So I think just learning about, why these things happen, that you can't take everything personal. You cannot allow other people on social media to identify you, to define you as a person, either a loser or you are a winner. There's no in between. You're either going to win or you're going to lose. I come here for company. I don't completely agree with anyone. It's just me all the time. I don't change. Yeah. Well, you're lucky, you don't allow yourself to get involved in the quote unquote politics of what's going on in social media. Because you find even an opinion will get you hate. It's because that person is losing control of their own self. Like, wait a minute, I need my dopamine back. I don't like what you said. I'm going to block you. I need the likes. And they start spewing people away. It's like, just simply because you don't agree with them. There's no critical thinking. Hi, Audra. Oh, I've been sitting on my leg and I fell asleep. Pamela, hello. I've also noticed young and older people are also losing their art. Oops, where did that go? A face-to-face conversation. Yeah. Yep. Older people. I mean, if you're in this environment long enough and you become addicted to it and your behaviors are toxic or there's no critical thinking in social media, there comes a point where you can no longer manage being in the real world, and isolation has increased, depression has increased, because you're so used to that instant gratification, the dopamine. It's a false sense of identity, and it's a dangerous identity. And we see, suicide rates, especially among younger people, going up because of social media. We actually see things spilling out into our real world that are really concerning. Bulimia, anorexia with younger people, depression, suicide, younger and older people. And is it that we just have to unplug to get back to quote unquote normalcy? I don't have the answer for that. I know for me, I know what my limits are. I have to discipline myself. But it's not always easy. There was a time in my life where the first thing I did when I got up out of bed, I didn't even get up out of bed, was go right to Facebook or to a social media platform to see how many views I got, to see what people had to say. And of course, you get the bad comment, the mean comments, and you just want to get right on there and defend yourself. And you're defending against the tide. You will never win. You will never win. And that's why I stopped going to a lot of channels and commenting, because what I had to say did not make a difference. If that person running the show already has an agenda and it's for that self-gratification, then there's no sense for me to comment. I come for company too, but get my butt hurt. Yeah, it's frustrating. And they were talking about too, if you were to unplug even for a few days and you notice that positive change in you, it opens up room for discussion with other people in your real life. That's where change can come. And like Jaron said, you can't take 100 people who are drunk and have them all unplug and expect them to have a conversation. You need to have at least one sober person. So you unplug, and you start talking about it. You start talking to other people about your experiences on social media. And that's where the change can start, in empowering each other. But a lot of people take it personal, especially with smear campaigns. I didn't understand it. But I educated myself. I did unplug. I was not run off. I did unplug, and got my sense of reality back so I could think clearer, because my head was so fogged up, so to say, by being in this world of social media and having people define me as a loser and everyone following suit. And that person was not going to stop, even though the behavior was bad, because they were getting likes, they were getting supported for their bad behavior. So why would they stop? That's why people will go on and on and on and on about a particular person, because they're being rewarded for it, not only by their subscribers or other people that pop in, but by the algorithms. They catch the algorithms. And these are why we say, why are some of these people even still up? Why are their channels up? Because Google, Instagram, Facebook support. This is what makes their machine run. The wheels grind and turn in their business at the cost of damaging people psychologically. I've been kicked out of chat because I didn't agree with the host. Yeah. Because you're not giving them that instant gratification. You can't have a conversation. You can't have differences. You can't. You cannot, without compassion, without critical thinking. It will not exist in social media. It can't. It can't. It's either black or white. It's either you win or you lose. There's nothing in between to strive for. And when people are bad, they're really bad. And when they're good, they're pretty good. But if you have something like, let's start a discussion, and someone comes in and doesn't agree with you, if that person is not getting that dopamine effect, like, can't handle someone not agreeing. They don't know how. There's no in between in social media. So you're better off just keeping your opinions to yourself. Did you see, one time I was blocked for having an opinion, something that was helping that creator, because they expressed they were hurting. And I say, hey, this works for me. It will work for you. you know? And the fact that I was blocked, because if that person took my advice, it would mean less attention on them. For example, being trolled. Why am I being trolled? Well, ignore the trolls. Don't talk to them. And I got blocked for that. Why? Because even trolls gave that person attention. And that gave that person a sense of being accepted, an identity, a false identity. And people are literally changing their identities, digital identities. And then they lose sense of who they really are. They go out into the real world and they don't function, or they end up staying home because they don't know how to function anymore around real people. Why are people like this, wanting to hurt each other? I think it goes back to there's no critical thinking in social media. If you don't have human compassion, which you cannot get in a digital world, you cannot have critical thinking. It takes compassion. It takes a conversation between two people, eye to eye, face to face. We wouldn't act like this in the real world. People say, well, you act like this, you must be like this in the real world. There's compassion in the real world. If you hang around social media long enough, you lose that sense of identity and you become addicted, and people become recluses. They don't leave their homes. They develop phobias or fear of leaving their house, fear of interacting. Look at all these kids that text their parents. They're right in the same house. My daughter would do it. Talk to me face to face. I can't argue with you or have a disagreement with you through a text. We all need to be loved. We all need to feel accepted. In the digital world, you're not going to get that. You're just not. It's just words. That's why I come here. I love the feeling this place offers. Well, thanks, Austin. And what can we do to, unfortunately at this point in time, there's always room for dialogue out in your real world about this, people who you meet, your experiences on social media. It brings awareness, education. People like Gannon and Sam Batkin, their videos, Jared, but you just have to avoid. If you're going to stay on social media, you have to avoid these places or these, platforms that become toxic and bullying. And it doesn't matter, it's not about, well, this person did this and this person did that and that person did this and that's not right. I get that, but it's the behaviors that are wrong. It is the behaviors that are wrong. If you cannot have a conversation, problem solve, that is what's going to show people their behaviors that are toxic. Because no one's taking the time to either talk in private or sit down or but you go on a platform and you get many people watching, there's no way for resolution ever. There will never, you can't, and they talked about it in one of these videos. You cannot find resolution without compassion. Suicides have risen during COVID-19, especially among teenagers. Yes, it has. Suicide has risen, I believe, it's probably around 20% now since the internet, social media came about. And at what point do we stop social media? At what point does our real life, the public, have that critical thinking discussion and say, look, we've got a problem. So this is why we do need to talk outside of social media about toxicity of social media. Because if it was something outside of social media that caused an increase in suicide among adults and children, then we would certainly do everything we could to ban it, right, in our real world. But this is social media creating these, and no one wants to take responsibility. Nobody wants to take responsibility yet. Not Google, not Facebook, but there will come a time when they will be held accountable. There will be lawsuits against these companies, and I think there already have been, for people, committing suicide due to social media harassment and bullying. And because you're an adult, don't think that, we tend to think as bullying as with children, but adults are bullied, and adults do suffer depression, and adults do commit suicide as a result of bullying online. And we hear about it all the time. And so far, nothing's done. Nobody wants to take responsibility, like the opiate crisis. Nobody wanted to take responsibility until we saw people starting to file lawsuits against Farm America and making doctors responsible, who were irresponsible and writing too many prescriptions and causing overdose deaths among adults and young people. And that came about with discussions, and that's what needs to be done. Start talking outside of social media to your peers, to your family, and get their opinion and awareness. Hey, one sassy Texas girl, good to see you. We do need to change the way we interact with each other. And a lot of these social media sites where there's that gang mentality, you often see many people come together to do it. There again, it's that dopamine effect, that there's something more about, let me get more people, because they support me. They agree with me. Why should I fight on my own? Look at all the people who like me. Let me show everybody who fights along with me, even against one person. It's an assassination of someone's character who's on the receiving end of this. Nobody can stand up for their own anymore. No one can pick up the phone and say, look, this is a problem between you and I. But no, let me go out there and make it everybody's issue. Let me bring attention to everybody so I can affect other people, because I'm going to get more likes. I'm going to get more people in my room. It's a psychological mind screw. May I ask about your son? Sure, he's doing fine. One sassy, thank you. My mom was prescribed Vicodin for 15 years. Terrible. But we're seeing change. It's slow, but people are being held accountable. And at some point, we will see Google will be held accountable. And Facebook. Whether, like Jaron said, whether their intent was good or not. The fact is, we are seeing these rises in suicide. We are seeing a rise in online bullying. And hopefully at one point, the people who do this, not Google, but the subscribers to these channels, will be held accountable. But we're kind of slow that way. I know other countries are way ahead of us and don't even allow this. That's why you'll see a lot of people, maybe from the UK or Australia, hang out with us, because it's allowed. It's allowed. It's drama, it's excitement, it's that dopamine hit, right? Because in other countries, it is a crime to do this. A huge part of the opiate crisis was the government threatening to take away Medicare reimbursement if patients' satisfaction scores are low. Yeah. And it's like that with social media. It's about the numbers, right? They just look at numbers, the algorithms, we as subscribers are being treated as we are a product. And when we go in and have these disagreements with our friends or whomever on the internet, on social media, you feel the same. You feel like you're being treated like a product and not a human being. Oh, Shelley, you were that distraught? I'm sorry. So, yeah, and this is why I wanted to do this, just so people, I can't say don't take it personally, because it is personal when someone hurts you, right? It is personal. But it's also nothing you did. Like I said, you might be blamed for something, whether you did it or not. What's more disturbing than what somebody did, what's more disturbing is the behaviors. So if you're going to criticize somebody for their actions of doing something that you didn't like, where are the people to criticize that person for their behavior, for someone who did something that you didn't like? It doesn't work like that. It's either black or white. Either you are going to win with that person or you are going to lose based on their gratification. And if people are supporting that bad behavior, they're going to get worse. They're going to keep going at it and going at it, because it's not that, I shouldn't do this, but so many people like it. They're here. They're supporting me, even though my behavior is awful and I'm bullying somebody. Look at all the people who support me. Good night, Austin. Gotta feed the critters. Oh, we don't want them coming after you. And why not do all these things in private? Because in private, you are not going to get your dopamine fix. But if you go and open up your platform, even to hurt somebody or to put someone on the spot or to interrogate them, in YouTube, it's you're guilty until proven innocent. It's rather strange and backwards, but that's how it was developed to do. That's how it was created. There's no, again, critical thinking. So people are rewarded for their bad behaviors. Shelley, you want to share what you were distraught over? And again, keep in mind, we're just products in this community and products to each other. We're products to Google and Facebook. We're commodities, and we're just products to other people because they're without the compassion. We are treated as if we are an item on a shelf. She's got me through a situation she doesn't even know. Oh, one sassy. Thank you. And you guys help me, Just the fact that we can kind of behave here and not, like for me to think like, let me wait till someone's not around to bash them, I just, but then again, maybe because I'm not in YouTube all the time and maybe my wiring hasn't switched yet. Maybe I'm not getting those dopamine hits as much as someone else is. I don't have that need to keep checking my videos and seeing how many likes I got, although on my music channel maybe, because I have a couple of videos that are hitting the algorithm. Not big, but I'm proud of it, but not when it comes to making videos and going after people. Thanks, Spoof. Spoof, you want to come up? And some people are more concerned about, I won't mention the person. It happened in one of my lives tonight, and I had to take it down. It was a sunset, and it was nice, and and it's my fault because I didn't have to react, and I did, to someone who, was nice. I mean, they weren't coming in to bash me or anything, but just the comment being, it was only done or something like that because that person doesn't want someone going real life. Can we not see what's already going on is bad enough? Never mind being afraid of real life. It's almost like so many people are desensitized that what's going on is bad enough, but they're thinking now, no, what's really bad is if someone goes real life. This is real life in a sense. When you behave this badly and you are affecting other people, you are affecting groups of people, you are creating a divide, which, can hit the algorithm in a positive way. For Google, that's what they want. That's why you don't see a lot of channels being disciplined or taken down, because that's how the algorithms are built around the negativity. Privately talking about someone's problems. I'm not even the creator. I felt hurt that I was blocked and discarded by one creator on here. I always showed her support and kindness. Lesson learned. That's what happens. But that's the whole thing with social media. That's what it was intended to do, to treat you like a product. And then those who get addicted, or, and you can't come up with an excuse and say, no, that's not me. We see it by actions. We see it. People have no tolerance for even a different opinion. There's no critical thinking. I know I'm bringing that up a lot, but it's so important. It's either you agree with me because it makes me feel better, and if not, there used to be a time where we could maybe talk about it a little bit, but as time goes on and it gets worse and worse and worse, people don't have the tolerance anymore for even someone up in a different opinion. And it's like, boom, you're gone. You're gone. I have no time for you. You're not satisfying me. I'm not feeling that dopamine effect from you. Okay, Spoof. You need to get a good night's sleep. You need to get, the thing is, the mentality, people see one, Spoof in here tonight. Oh, I must have taken sides. This is what happens. This is how the mentality develops in the mindset. I don't care what happened. That's not important to me. Okay. Nobody was killed. Nobody, it was the behaviors, how important are certain situations to open up a forum and have multiple people on your platform going after one person for character assassination, when the whole, it went from one situation to a character assassination. The behaviors are what bothered me. It's the behaviors of other people that I decide whether or not I want to support them or be around them. It's not what they're upset about. It is their behaviors. I can't take judgment. I can't, there's no proof. There's no facts. It's all talk. It's the behaviors of people and how they chose to to work this out. It's complete mayhem, and it overshadows what the original issue was. And all you see is a room of people behaving badly. And if certain people don't see it, and they talked about it in the video. They don't see it because they're so imbibed into it. They're already too deep down into it that they cannot discern anymore between reality and the digital world. And that's a problem. That is a problem. And that's what they talked about. This behavior spilling into our real life societies. Oh, spoof. Spoof, I think taking a break would be the best. I think and this is one example of how behaviors can affect people. Why rates of depression are increasing, anxiety. And if you don't have depression coming in, you're sure going to leave with it, or anxiety. So it's not about what a person did necessarily. There is nothing so bad except maybe murder or extortion or something that cannot be worked out privately. But again, we're talking about people who are redefining themselves through a digital world that it's complex. You would need a psychiatrist. I'd have to find a psychiatrist or a psychologist to come in here and try to explain this in layman's term. But I do know that nothing that goes on in the digital world should define who a person is in situations like this. We all make mistakes, and there are situations that we've been in that we haven't done something and we're being accused of it, and you're badgered and badgered and badgered until they want to hear what they're trying to develop inside the internet. It's that, again, gratification. I'm not going to leave you alone until you admit to me what I just said. It's messed up. It's messed up. There is no room for redemption in the digital world. Like I said, you're either, like not I said, they said in these videos, you're either a loser or a winner. There's no in between. You're either a loser or a winner. They have no filter. Right. Right, Beth. Our poor husbands have to console us after these messes on here. Yeah, I remember my smear campaign, and my husband's gone, but I remember just sitting on my bed with a box of Kleenex, and I was so confused. I was so confused and appalled at the behaviors and the people that allowed it and opened up their platform for this to smear me. And other people have gone through it. Everyone gets a turn, right? It's all fun and games till you have to go through it. And I couldn't understand why someone who I adored so much, two people, one opening up their platform, same thing, just a bunch of words, and everyone believing it without mindfulness to me or whoever they're going after, and still not apologizing and still not taking accountability for their behaviors. But there will come a time that people will have to take accountability. It's just really slow. Because I think our country is very selfish. And they're very geared toward making money. And these advertising, these commercials, these companies should be ashamed of themselves. That, if you're monetized and you're bullying someone but you got to watch a commercial before that person's bullied. These companies should take accountability, you know, also. But I believe there will come a time with more discussions and more awareness that down the road, I think either social media will no longer exist, which is a great possibility, or you're going to see once Google has to become accountable, or Facebook, or Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, whatever, you will see change. That's when you will see change. They get invested in keeping it going and not caring how it affects their target. No, because you are a product. You're a product. You think you're a sub, you think you're someone who's supporting someone, but you are a product, because if you were a real person, why would they subject everybody to this kind of behavior without talking? Hey, by the way, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to smear the shit out of someone today for the next 3 days straight. I'm going to do it for the next 3 months. You are a product. I chit chat. I don't argue, engage. I usually not acknowledge because I really comment. I may comment if someone is threatening to go after someone that hasn't gone after them. And do you really think your comment, if you comment and say, hey, don't do that, they listen? No. Because it's an identity. This is their identity now. Their digital identity. Let me see if hold on. And you know, it's interesting because it's been discussed by Gannon and Sam Barkin that mostly, you know, because of these behaviors and the way things evolve in social media, you know, people interacting, that everyone's a narcissist. Their behaviors is so narcissistic. So narcissistic. YouTube used to show these videos, but they did languish the reality of your thoughts. But the reality of death that's being posted from my eyes will burn you in hell. Huh? You mean having to do with accountability for people's actions, whether it's Google or the subscriber themselves? All right. Let's try this one. It's titled, You Will Wish You Watched This Before You Start Using Social Media.
You're dealing with an addicted generation.
This is a big time.
And this is Gannon.
This is no accident. Indeed, it is by design. I mean, seriously?
This
It
is
was
some
my
other
mistake.
I mean, I think we can all feel it.
To try to make these products as addictive as possible.
Spike in dopamine.
We now know that many of the major social media companies hire individuals called attention engineers who borrow principles from Las Vegas casino gambling, among other places, to try to make these products as addictive as possible. That is the desired use case of these products, is that you use it in an addictive fashion because that maximizes the profit that can be extracted from your attention and data.
It literally is a point now where I think we have created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works. That is truly where we are.
The way the technologist Jaron Lanier puts it is that these companies offer you shiny treats in exchange for minutes of your attention and bytes of your personal data, which can then be packaged up and sold.
What happened is that the attention economy and this race for attention got more and more competitive. And the more competitive it got to get people's attention on, say, a news website, the more they need to add these design principles, these more manipulative design tactics, as ways of holding on to your attention.
You don't realize it, but you are being programmed.
Social media tools are designed to be addictive. The actual desired use case of these tools is that you fragment your attention as much as possible throughout your waking hours. That's how these tools are designed to use. Well, we have a growing amount of research which tells us that if you spend large portions of your day in a state of fragmented attention, so large portions of your day where you're constantly breaking up your attention, take a quick glance, do a just check, and just quickly look at Instagram, that this can permanently reduce your capacity for concentration. I am especially worried about this when we look at the younger generation coming up, which is the most saturated in this technology.
And it's very addictive because if you pull on the slot machine arm enough, you will win. And you never know which pull will reward you.
That's an addictive behavior, and it's dopamine that is driving that addiction. So what happens with social media is Robert Sapolsky, who did the foundational research on this at Stanford, calls it the magic of maybe. When you look at your phone and maybe there's a text there and maybe there's not, and you don't know, when it shows up, that high you get, that's dopamine. It's the magic of maybe. Maybe it'll be there, maybe it won't. When it shows up, you get a 400% spike in dopamine. That is roughly the same amount of dopamine as you're getting from cocaine. It's slightly less than an extremely addictive drug like cocaine. And that's what's happening.
We really care what other people think of us. So for example, when you upload a new profile photo of yourself on Facebook, that's a moment where our mind is very vulnerable to knowing what other people think of my new profile photo. And so when we get new likes on our profile photo, Facebook, knowing this, could actually message me and say, oh, you have new likes on your profile photo. And it knows that we'll be vulnerable to that moment because we all really care about when we're tagged in a photo or when we have a new profile photo. And the thing is that they control the dial. The technology companies control the dial for when and how long your profile photo shows up on other people's news feeds. So they can orchestrate it so that other people more often end up liking your profile photo over a delayed period of time, for example, so that you end up having to more frequently come back and see what the new likes are.
And it's literally rewiring our brain. Even social media, the challenge is, with these terms like Facebook depression and everything, because it's that. This is social media depression because whereas everyone's looking at their feed and they're comparing their lives to other people, their highlights of other people's lives.
Wow.
And there's actually less life satisfaction, more sadness, depression, and stuff like that.
And it's interesting because if you think about things that, routinely produce a lot of dopamine, alcohol, for example, there's a drinking age, right? We have a drinking age. The alcohol releases a whole lot of dopamine. It makes you feel really, really good. We say, okay, you can have that, but you've got to wait. You've got to be 21 years old. We don't do that with social media. We're, essentially putting highly addictive drugs into the hands of kids before they have any natural defenses against them. And what you're seeing with internet addiction, with social media addiction, is the same thing over and over. It's people trying to change their state of consciousness with a device trying to get at the underlying neurochemical chemistry, and it's very, very addictive.
And so I would say the problem with the gadgets, they're amazing things, is that they proximately interfere with medium to long-term goals, I would say. And so I think the first thing you have to do to bring them under control is figure out what it is that their use is interfering with. It has to be something important. So you think, well, I want to do something important. What is that? Well, it could be personal. Maybe you want to have a relationship. You want to get married. You want to have kids. You want to have a career that's meaningful. You want to have a life. You want to have an Abrahamic adventure and be the father of nations, let's say. Well, you can't be ratting away on your cell phone and doing that. And so I think part of it is to set your sights high and make a plan and figure out who you could be and see if obsessive utilization of smartphone fits into that vision of nobility. And it will partly because they're unbelievably powerful communication devices. But so often it's for lack of something better to do.
How would you like to help local businesses and get compensated very well, all without ever leaving?
And it also interferes.
Imagine like when you take that to the extreme, where bad actors can now manipulate large swaths of people to do anything you want. It's a really, really bad state of affairs. And we compound the problem, right? We curate our lives around this perceived sense of perfection because we get rewarded in these short-term signals, hearts, likes, thumbs up, and we conflate that with value and we conflate it with truth. And instead what it really is fake, brittle popularity that's short-term and that leaves you even more, and admit it, vacant and empty before you did it. Because then it forces you into this vicious cycle where you're like, what's the next thing I need to do now? Because I need it back. Think about that compounded by 2 billion people. And then think about how people react then to the perceptions of others. It's really bad.
So we know from the research literature that the more you use social media, the more likely you are to feel lonely or isolated. We know that the constant exposure to your friends' carefully curated positive portrayals of their life can lead you to feel inadequate and can increase rates of depression. And something I think we're going to be hearing more about in the near future is that there's a fundamental mismatch between the way our brains are wired and this behavior of exposing yourself to stimuli with intermittent rewards throughout all of your waking hours. So it's one thing to spend a couple hours at the slot machine in Las Vegas, but if you bring a slot machine with you and you pull that handle all day long from when you wake up to when you go to bed, we're not wired from it. It short circuits the brain, and we're starting to find that it has actual cognitive consequences, one of them being the sort of pervasive background hum of anxiety.
Here's the thing. The world we live in isn't real. Social media isn't real. And by design, social media rewards us for showing our best life. The edited, posed, champagne, Michelin star, holiday, orchestrated best angle of our life, the highlight reel. But you don't ever see real life, the 99% of our lives, the behind the scenes, the unglamorous, unfiltered, day-to-day, bland normality. And you end up comparing your behind the scenes to other people's fake highlight reel and using others as a mirror or benchmark for how you should look, how successful you should be, or how you should live. These fake comparisons will only serve to make you feel inadequate and inferior to something that isn't even real. Research continually shows that comparing your life to someone else's creates envy, low self-confidence, low self-esteem, and depression. You compare yourself to other people every single day, consciously or subconsciously. And no matter what I say, you're not going to stop, because comparing one thing to another is a natural human thing to do. Whether we want to admit it or not, a big reason why anything has value is because there's something worse or better to compare it to. Think about it. An old brick of a mobile phone with a big aerial is only considered amazing in a world before the smartphone. The horse and carriage is only considered a phenomenal mode of transport until the car comes along. The answer isn't to stop making comparisons, because unfortunately we can't control that. But you have to change the object of your comparison from someone else to yourself. You have to measure yourself against yourself. And by doing this, you start at a base point where you consider yourself to be perfectly fine exactly how you are. But it also is the most effective, motivating, and healthy way to work to improve yourself. You'll become your happier self when you stop putting pressure on yourself to be more like someone else, and when you start comparing real to real.
We're in a really bad state of affairs right now, in my opinion. It is eroding the core foundations of how people behave by and between each other. And I don't have a good solution. My solution is I just don't use these tools anymore. I haven't for years. It's created huge tension with my friends, huge tensions in my social circles. If you look at my Facebook feed, I've posted maybe 2 times in 7 years. 3 times, 5 times. It's less than 10. And it's weird. I guess I kind of just innately didn't want to get programmed. And so I just tuned it out. But I didn't confront it. And now to see what's happening, it really bums me out.
Back in the 1970s and the early 80s at Xerox PARC, when Steve Jobs first went over and saw the graphical user interface, the way people talked about computers and computers was a bicycle for our minds. That here we are, you take a human being, and they have a certain set of capacities and capabilities, and then you give them a bicycle, and they can go to all these new distances. They're empowered to go to these brand new places and to do these new things, to have these new capacities. And that's always been the philosophy of people who make technologies. How do we create bicycles for our minds to do and empower us to feel and access more? Now, when the first iPhone was introduced, it was also the philosophy of these technologies. How do we empower people to do something more? And in those days, it wasn't manipulative because there was no competition for attention. Photoshop wasn't trying to maximize how much attention it took from you. It didn't measure success that way. And the internet overall had been in the very beginning not designed to maximize attention. It was just putting things out there, creating these message boards. It wasn't designed with this whole persuasive psychology that emerged later.
If you feed the beast, that beast will destroy you. If you push back on it, we have a chance to control it and rein it in. And it is a point in time where people need to hard break from some of these tools and the things that you rely on. The short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. No civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, mistruth. And it's not an American problem. This is not about Russian ads. This is a global problem.
Mr. Zuckerberg, would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night?
No.
That little piece of Mr. Zuckerberg, would you be comfortable in staying in your hotel? And he said no. Just shows an example of, what goes on in social media, that he allows, people sharing their private lives publicly, people being victims of swatting or whatever. And he's, the CEO, but yet he allows it because you are nothing but a product. You're nothing but a product. But it's interesting to hear about the competition, right? At any kind of attention, as long as you're competing out there, you're getting more friends. How often do we hear, Pink's Live only has 10 people in it, 15. So what? That mentality of, wow, I have 38 people in here tonight, or I have 55, or I have 105 people in here tonight. That gives that high. That gives that, wow, people are watching me. They're here for me. Last week, people, I didn't get above 10 people, they might say. And look at, now I have 38. And then you see the progression, more people, coming up as guests. The behaviors are getting worse. But as long as the numbers are there, the product is there. And there's that sense of, I don't have to compete as much as I did before because I get just as many people as so-and-so. And I get more people now than so-and-so has in her lives. You see it all the time. If you don't have a lot of subs or a lot of people in your life, you're judged. You're a judge. Because to them, the numbers identify them. They want to be identified by numbers of people they can draw in, whether they're good or bad. It was a planned deal in progress. What did you expect from social media? I don't know. I don't know what I expected. When I came to YouTube and discovered, and no, Chris Watts didn't bring me to YouTube. I came in November, I think, and started a channel December 2nd. I didn't expect to see what I saw. I mean, it wasn't as bad, but we all know it's gotten worse, that conquer and divide mentality. But that's exactly what it was set up for. And we all fell victim to it, didn't we? Yeah. And I think no matter how many subscribers I have or get, I'm trying to maintain my sense of, okay, I can't cross that line. Or if I feel like tonight, when I did the sunset and someone came in and, you know, and I just kind of got triggered, and I'm like, but I always say that's my fault. I allowed myself to go after something where, it's just black or white. No matter what I say, and I tried, it was something else. I mean, the person agreed, but it kept going on and on and on. Like, there's no resolution. There will never be, no matter how hard we try, right? No matter how hard we try, you cannot resolve anything. You can't. You can't. Maybe privately you can, but then again, privately, if you're in it, and why do people do this publicly? That's, I guess, my question. Why? Why do they do it publicly? They need an audience. Why do they need an audience? They need an identity. They had an identity coming in, but they're trying to change their identity. It is narcissistic. Yes, there is. The behaviors are narcissistic. Absolutely. Absolutely. With everyone who, there are probably times I've flipped out. And I'm sure, I had those narcissistic, symptoms or behaviors, whatever you want to call them. I think we all become like that because it's so limited in how we can express ourselves in social media. Quality versus quantity. Yeah, and I've always, I think if I ever got to a point where I could no longer control my channel, and that's why a lot of YouTubers who are successful don't last, because they, it's black and white, and what that person wants, they can no longer give their audience what they want, and they want the instant likes. The viewers want that dopamine. Okay, that's where drama comes in, that dopamine, that high. And when a creator can no longer give that to their subscribers, and we see that with successful YouTubers who have left, they can't give something they don't have anymore. They just can't. They're burnt out. Julie Storm, I feel this is a good one, baby. A good what? Put them up. Yesterday, so even the guy in the last video said, I don't have the solution, but he can remove himself from it. So we can limit where we go, discipline ourselves, a day at a time, an hour at a time. It's like an addict trying to get off of drugs, and you don't have to do it all at once. It's not a race. And say you spend 3 hours a day on the internet. Well, say to yourself, tomorrow I'm going to spend 2.5 hours. Work toward a goal. I'm not going to spend as much time. Put your priorities in place, and you'll feel better. You'll feel better. But if you let yourself go and just find yourself staying at home and intermittently checking in all the time, that's not good. You have to intermittently, to keep checking in on your status. How many people viewed my video? And sometimes there are videos up that shouldn't be up, that are very disturbing, very hurtful, but yet, what do people look at? They look at the likes, the views, how many views I got. Wow, I've never gotten all these views before, rather than, and they lose sight of the content of what they presented in that video and the effects it had on someone else, perhaps, but they're overshadowed by the number of views. I never got this much attention before. How much, if I ever had a video that went viral, I'd be like probably the same. Wow, wow, my video's hitting an algorithm. But you want to hit it for the right reasons and not at the expense of a human being. People do suffer consequences from the internet. There are people who do take their life. And it's been proven, it's been shown, the increase of suicide from social media, not just with young people, but adults. It can be, it's dangerous and it is very toxic. So, you have to, we're all willing participants. So if you don't want to see this kind of stuff or are upset over it, then you have to make provisions and changes in your own life. No one else can do that for you. I can't tell someone to stop going into, a channel that's abusive, knowing that how it can affect them. I can't. Nobody can. Nobody can tell me either, so I think a lot of us learn from being hurt. It's a wake-up call. Bye, Debbie. Hey, thanks for coming in. I thought it was funny that your 8-hour stream of bad karaoke singing got over 300 views. Thanks, Lockdown. I like you too. I like the name, Lockdown. Lockdown. I used to work in a prison. Most people are loved or liked by who they least expect. There's no way you can get by on the World Wide Web. The real world awaits you. That's scary enough. People are losing their attention spans. Yeah, they talked about that. They've done studies. Their concentration is not what it used to be. And you know what's interesting, Julie, is that everyone you talk to, it seems everyone says I have ADD or ADHD. Of course, more people are getting it because of something like social media, that intermittent checking in and, trying to make room in your brain for likes, dislikes. We have a hard time in the real world compartmentalizing what's out there as it is. And this is a perfect example of just, diving into a world of social media and absorbing all this, good or bad, and trying to retain it or find a place in our brains to hold on to it. And that's where you get ADD. I hear it all the time. Everyone's got ADD. But I think if you limit yourself, things become clearer, more concrete. We used to hook in daily soap operas. My mom didn't miss Guiding Light. Oh my God. She was mostly invested in the drama. Now we can engage personally in the drama. Actually got called a lurker to stop listening. And I was at work, for heaven's sake. I'm going to hold myself to high regard. Yeah, well, there's a lot of focus on things that don't need to be focused on. But if it brings attention in any way, I don't know. I don't know if we're supposed to feel bad or, yeah, I've talked about that before. It is hurtful because I've heard it from other people, a lot of people, and they're so fixated on, how many people, again, are in their chat. And why aren't you talking? Is it give me the attention or is it give me attention just for not talking? I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy what people are focusing on. And losing that sense of what is really important. YouTube Eyewitness Protection Program video was so funny. Mine, eyewitness protection. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember that. I think I still have it up. And that was weird because I made that video before the divide happened. And it was like, it was really freaked me out. Yeah, like I know if I'm listening to a live while I'm driving, I can't comment, and I hope nobody would do that while they're driving. And then you feel, you know, you feel like, yeah, you're either a winner or a loser. And if you're not chatting, you're a loser. And it's like people are trying to like define, anything. Um, and then other people will follow suit. Oh yeah, you got so many people and only so many people are chatting, so you're getting validated, because for the simple reason other people are agreeing with you. And if you say, well, maybe people are driving, it's like, nope, nope, nope. And other people's like, yep, nope, nope, nope. They're lurking. Oh, they're lurking. They're lurking. It's crazy. It's crazy. You like the one I did in diapers with Robbie. Yeah, if you want to stay on YouTube all day and not use the bathroom, just whip on a pair of Depends. Now you know something? I have a feeling people do it. That's what's crazy about it. So I hope this helped. I think a discussion is good. I hope that people who feel hurt, it's hard for me to say don't take it personally because it is personal. It is. But don't take it in the sense that, it defines you. Look at the source. Look at the source being social media itself, what it was intended for. And it's not nice. And again, when does Google or these social media sites start taking accountability for allowing these behaviors? Again, we wouldn't want our kids to act like this, and we set boundaries. We have rules. We discipline. We punish. Time out. You're grounded. But yet, we're in a community of adults, and anything goes, and nobody has to be accountable. Pink's mini balls openings are the best. Well, thanks. I didn't think, that was hard. That was hard parroting Mummy Ramblings because, like I said before, I need more outrageous people to parody. But Syme Serm, extremely paranoid. Who's that? Who's Syme Serm? Oh, some seem extremely paranoid. Yeah. Well, that's what social media will do to you also. It'll create paranoia. It literally changes the way you think. And again, people as adults think that their brains are already formed and that they already have an identity. So your brains are formed, but we are constantly through life, up to the day we die, redefining our identity, right? We're always doing that, And so, we care about what people think about us and about our identity. And, if you come in as yourself and someone says you suck, it's going to bring like paranoia, like, what did I do? What's wrong with me? So then it starts with the redefining. Well, let me be this kind of a person. It's complex. It's weird. Even the scientists who have studied this say the same thing. It's extreme. It's wrong. It's weird. How can we enforce people to take accountability? Maybe look at the other countries who have done this, where it's not allowed. But again, discussion. It starts with a discussion, and that's all we can do at this point. And if you feel hurt, you know, and what you feel can be traumatic for some people to go through something like, you know, being bullied online, then you always know it's a sure thing if you reach out to the people in your real life, the ones who can give you compassion, love you, support you. Please go to them. Please go to them. Because that's where you will feel the true love, true value of your family and friends. You can get it online, but there's nothing more than getting offline and going to the ones who love you, and where there's human touch, a hug, something. I feel like I've met some great people. Yeah, of course, there's lots of great people. I'm not saying everybody on YouTube is corrupt, but I think there's a misunderstanding, or we don't understand. We always say, like, why are people like this? So I'm hoping this live stream kind of touched a little bit upon it, and you know how social media is set up for, and what people can get away with, and that constant need for acceptance or redefining our identities in a digital world. And we don't have to, but there's competition, right? You get so many subscribers, you get monetized, get so many watch hours, and people strive for that. And they realize, well, drama will get me more watch hours. More people will come. Like. Even if it's bad behavior, you know, you're still getting rewarded. It's a reward system. Social media does not punish. It's a reward system. They may punish, and your channel might get taken down for whatever, but you are also rewarded for bad behaviors. So yeah, it's pretty wild. It's disturbing. But I know that I can't support stuff like that. I know a lot of my subs are the same way. We can't support people who, or any channel that you know, behaves so outrageous and there's no consequences. And people become deconditioned, so they're like, nothing wrong with it. I don't see what I did wrong. And they may never see what they did wrong. They may never. Thanks, Shelley. Thanks for coming. I'm sorry that, I hope, yeah, I'm glad you feel better. Yeah, definitely a reward system without checks and balances. And that can't sustain itself in the real world. But yet we're seeing, like they talked about, we're seeing this spill into society. And that's where it's becoming dangerous and influential, because these behaviors are allowed in the digital world, and because it's psychologically damaging to the brain, to the person, it changes their wiring, and it is spilling out into our real world. That's where the danger is. I have to configure on that statement, they will one day. I think so, one day, but I think there's going to be a lot of damage. There's going to be a lot of damage in the interim. And if I had young kids, I would do my best to keep them away. I wouldn't even give them a smartphone. I just wouldn't do it. I try to hold off as long as possible. And I think social media needs, you know, to be mindful, especially of younger kids. And if they can't do this, discipline adults, and if adults can't be the example for the younger generation, we're in trouble. we're in trouble because it spills over to society. So if nobody's watching the adults, how do we expect to take care of the kids? So, all right, everyone. Listen, have a great rest of your day. I am off tomorrow. If it's a nice day, I'll certainly do a sunset at the lake. Good night, Shelley. You should read the Analog Man lyrics, a song by Joe Walsh. Oh, maybe I'll upload it on my music channel. Let me, hold on. For those of you, I do have a music channel. I do take requests. Let me find it. And look at No Trolls Tonight. How wonderful was that? Channel. Oops. Okay, here we go. All right, this is my music channel. So feel free to subscribe. If you get a music request, I upload a lot of concerts from like the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. When I first started, I was creating my own videos, and then life got busy because editing takes a long time. But I've been uploading concerts because I got a lot of requests for those, which I love. Watching these concerts way back in the 70s, it's nostalgic. So yeah, I'll definitely look into that. The Analog Man lyrics, a song by Joe Walsh. Hold on. Analog Man song. Oops. I'm going to look at the lyrics right now. Analog Man lyrics. Welcome to cyberspace. I'm lost in the fog. Everything's digital. I'm still analog. When something goes wrong, I don't have a clue. Some 10-year-old smartass has to show me what to do. Sign on with high speed. You don't have to wait. Sit there for days and vegetate. I access my email, read all my spam. I'm an analog man. The whole world's living a digital dream. It's not really there. It's all on the screen. Makes me forget who I am. I'm an analog man. Yes, I'm an analog man in a digital world. I'm going to get me an analog girl who loves me for what I am. I'm an analog man. What's wrong with vinyl? I think it sounds great. LPs, 45s, 78s, but that's just the way I am. I'm an analog man. Turn on the tube, watch until dawn, 100 channels, nothing is on. I like that. Thanks for that. Yeah. A lot of people, yeah, are so addicted to the internet. And I hope I don't want to get there. And sometimes I wonder if I'm already there, but I don't think so. This one's for the girls, Martina McBride. Hey, Vicky. Yeah, definitely. And you know what? We gotta empower each other. In knowing what we know about a little bit more about social media, it's more reason to lift each other up. Because nobody likes to see anyone go through this. Never mind smear campaigns, but the bad behaviors. It's disturbing. It's disturbing to see these behaviors. I don't know what's worse, smear campaigns or the behaviors, you know? It's just all bad. It's all bad. Thanks, One Sassy. Thanks for coming. And who knows? Maybe tomorrow I'll do my silent banana nut bang. Oh my God, mutt bang. We'll see how it goes tomorrow. You love the 70s and 80s music, says Shelley. Yeah, it takes you right back to those memories if you grew up back in the 70s and 80s. All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks for coming. It was a great stream. No trolls. It's probably some shit going on out there, but hey, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. And what you put out is what you get back. So I'm hoping, maintaining this channel and, not allowing bullying. You get results. What you put into the universe is what you get back. And I don't want to get backlash. These channels that do this, that put out bullying or whatever, there's always backlash. And oh hell, I don't want to be a part of it. I just don't. So thanks, Pamela. Thanks, Lockdown. Come again. If the sun's out tomorrow, I'm doing a sunset live at 7 p.m. Okay? Can chill. All right. Vicky, thanks for the request. All right. Good night, everyone.